Well, all right, all right. What a mighty God we serve. All of us ought to be able to jump in on that and give witness to the fact that we do serve a mighty, wonderful, awesome God. Gail Cowley, good morning to you. Who else is it that keeps us from day to day and provides for us and shows us unconditional love? Who else was it that provided for us salvation? We're saved by grace through faith because it is the gift of God. The Bible says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life." Now, for those of you that are joining us for the very first time, you might feel like, well, is he about to start preaching? No, this is not necessarily a preaching platform. Yes, I am a preacher. Yes, I am a pastor. Thank God for my calling. Thank God for my anointing that He's placed upon my life to do what I do. But Morning Mocha is not necessarily a preaching platform, although every now and then I may get a little preachy. Why? Because it's who I am to some degree. It's who I am. Um, as it pertains to my spiritual calling. It's what I do as it pertains to my spiritual calling as well. Donna Sanders, good morning to you. But for those of you that are joining us for the very first time, this platform is basically about providing wisdom, sharing wisdom and knowledge that will help you and bless you in your day-to-day living. Even as Christians and believers, we know that we are in a world that we have to navigate through, and we need principles. Marshawn Rowland, good morning to you. We need principles that will help us to get through our natural lives. Our lives are not totally wrapped in ministry to the degree that it causes us to be somewhat exempt from experiencing the natural occurrences of life. And we need practical wisdom. Now, I believe that the wisdom that I share is based upon biblical principles, which are very, very important. But we don't have to always just preach biblical principles, but we can share biblical principles that are practical. How many of y'all know that? That many of the principles found in the Word of God, they are very, very practical, and they can be and they are to be utilized in day-to-day living. That's the reason why it's easier for us to be natural and yet live out who we are in the natural through the Spirit. And we bless God for what He does for us and how awesome He is. The blessings that He bestow upon us from one day to the next. We can celebrate the fact we made it through another week. How about that? We've made it through another week, and we give God thanks and praise. And I know some of you may have had some challenging days over this past week. And I hope and pray that some of the things that are shared here on Morning Mocha will come to your memory when you're going through some challenging and difficult times. And you can have some aha moments where you can say, well, you know what? Praise God, Dr. Cobbins, Bishop Cobbins, or whatever way you're referring to me. He shared some wisdom on that just the other day, or just the other week, or just last month. And here it is. I'm in needing to utilize it now. And hopefully it's beneficial to you. Celeste Wesley, happy Friday to you from Oklahoma. Oklahoma, God bless you. Hope you have a blessed time down there in Oklahoma. We have a couple of viewers that view from Oklahoma. And again, a special shout out to all of you that are viewing outside of the Kansas City metropolitan area. Again, I encourage you to share this platform with other people, share this link with other people, invite them to be a part. If it's truly being a blessing to you and you're not a selfish individual, then yes, go ahead and share it with someone else. We'd like to get as many people on here as we possibly can. I'd like to have you viewing live so that you can input your comments and so that possibly uh, um, I can have some interaction with some of the comments that you put up in the chat room. Um, I try to concentrate and focus on what I need to say, but every now and then I can look up and see some comments being posted that I believe are worth sharing or even worth commenting on. For a great deal of time, for months of Sundays, I guess I could say, I've been inviting those of you, our listeners, our viewers, to if you have any topic you'd like for me to discuss, or maybe even some questions that you may want me to answer, and and I receive the inspiration to share that topic, or God give me the wisdom to answer those questions, you just send an email to me. There's my email address at the bottom of the screen, the shepherd at cananwc.org. Um, I've gotten very few of you to send in questions or comments or suggestions of topics that you would like me to discuss over these several months that we've been doing this. Very, very, very few people have sent in questions or suggested topics. Um, so that tells me you all have no curiosities or questions or things that you would like to discuss. You know, I thought when we first opened it up to allowing you to do so that I'd be flooded with suggestions, but well, we're still waiting for that to happen. I want you to know um, it's still available to you. Again, thank you, Tisha Hillman. Let me take the time while I'm thanking her to thank all the others that work behind the scenes to help me to get this done, to help me to pull off this morning mocha all the time. Got to thank Lady Ann, who's my mental and emotional support. She's always right in there with me with everything that I do. So we thank God for her support in that respect. But I also want to thank those who helped me pull this off technically, the technical support. My main man, Deacon Will Parker Jr. He makes sure that everything is working from the technical aspect with regards to the internet, things of that nature flowing, and programs that we need to have in operation and working so we can bring you a good program of excellence. Thank God for Rochelle Parker, who's on our team that helps us get out information. She's the individual that primarily most of the time sends you out that text message that you all get to remind you that we're streaming live each and every morning. Thank God for her. And then Tisha Hillman, she's my online person that reminds me, her along with Rochelle, but they remind me of what I need to make mention of and post things and information out there to you that keeps you informed of what we're doing and what's available to you. So thank God for all of my behind the scenes people. Couldn't do it without you. I never want to go too long without thanking God for and thanking them for their input and helping me to pull off this morning mocha each and every morning. When you watch the news or other things, they got the credits that roll up at the end, giving people the credit for doing the job that they do. Well, we don't have that here. So I have to just mention it every now and then. Maybe one of these days we'll get to be that sophisticated. Wow. Once again, my good friend and brother, Pastor Mike Grubbs, just popped in this morning. And again, he's a part of our morning mocha family. He's a part of my family. That's my brother. That's my brother. As they say, my brother from another mother. We love Pastor Grubbs. I want to also thank him for his weekly input that he's been sharing with us on an ongoing basis. We had a little period of time where he wasn't available, which is very, very, very understandable. But he so freely offers of his time, and he's constantly pushing us and helping us and lending that, that hand we need every now and then. And our audience loves it when Pastor Grubbs is on with us. So God bless each and every one of you. Again, I hope that you're sharing this with someone who can benefit from this platform. This morning, I kind of want to ask you a rhetorical question, if you would, and it might be a question that some of you might need to actually answer, and that is, why resist change? Why do people resist change? Why are they most of the time so opposed to change. Now, again, the one thing that I found to make most people very uncomfortable is change. That's a reality. You know, anytime you start to announce change or imply that there's going to be a change within a group of people, or even now with an individual, most of the time, my experience has been the announcement of change has been met with great pushback. It's been met with great resistance, particularly in ministry. You get a lot of that. You start indicating that there are changes that need to be made within the ministry, and people just get in an uproar. But here's what we got to understand. Um, Change is inevitable. I already agree with you, Brother Randy. People don't want to come out of their comfort zones. You are so very right in that area. They just don't want to come out of their comfort zone. But here's what we got to understand, and that is change is inevitable. As a matter of fact, life consists of a series of changes. Something is always changing around you, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you see it or not, or can identify with it or not. But change is constantly occurring around you. I mean, think about this: nature changes. And we in the Midwest certainly ought to know that. We go through and experience all four of the seasons that impact the earth. I mean, we experience it on every level, at the highest level. Well, some people might say, well, every part of the country experiences it, not the way we do. The temperatures don't drop below 30 on a regular in Florida and in California and all that kind of thing. We experience all four seasons. Spring, we get it. Rain, all of that. We get it. Summer, we know here in Kansas City it can get hot, sweltering heat. The humidity can get so high it just seems almost impossible to almost breathe, if you will. I can remember over this past summer, there were times wherein the temperature was hovering about 80, 85, but the humidity was so high, that I really couldn't stand doing anything outside. I've started a regimen I started last year of riding my bicycle, a pedal bicycle. And I was trying to do it every day. And I would get out and ride anywhere from 10 to even now 25 miles a day. And this past summer, there were several days where the humidity was so tough. I tried to get out there and ride, but it was a struggle for me because it was hard for me to breathe because not just the heat, but the humidity. The air was so thick, it just didn't feel comfortable for me. And I decided I wasn't going to try to kill myself trying to get myself in shape. So I had to put that on hold. That's what the summer does for us. Of course, now we experience the fall where the foliage changes, leaves fall off the trees, the grass goes into a state of dormancy, the flowers stop blooming and even die off. We see that in the fall and in the winter. Let's not talk about the winter. Man, the frigid temperatures, the potential of several feet of snow being on the ground during any period where the weather is just shifted and it's not for our good. We're experiencing change constantly. That's all a part of life. Circumstances change. I know many of us are not in the same position today that we were a year ago. Some of you can say, I'm not even in the same circumstances today that I was in a month ago, a week ago. For some of you, some things may have changed between yesterday and today. Circumstances change. How about this? You are changing. You are constantly changing. How do I know that you're still alive? That means you're growing older. And as you grow older, you will gradually change. You will see some change. You will feel change. Don't believe me? Keep waking up. Keep looking in the mirror. You know, um, I was just looking at some videos of myself just yesterday. You know how your phone does it; it will bring up a memory from 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. And I was looking at that video, and I didn't have all this gray in my goatee that I have right now. I'm like, wow, man, I don't even see a hint of gray. But look at it now. Look in the mirror, and I see this gray coming in. And you know what? I'm not ashamed of the gray. I'm, somewhat proud of the gray. It's there. It doesn't mean that I'm old, but it does suggest that I've gotten older. You know, um, I used to say gray is a sign of wisdom. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but if that's your story, you want to stick to it. I invite you to do so. But again, it's all about change, and as I just alluded to, it's not just about looks, but it's about even now how you feel. You get older, and some of the things you used to be able to do, you just can't do anymore, regardless as to how much your mind tells you that you can. You know, your body changes. Even people who are in great physical condition, uh, they start to notice that they have certain limitations, even though they're doing things to help them constantly feel in shape. People that are 60 that say, well, I feel like I'm 20. Reality is sometimes that's all in their minds, because if you start asking them to do things that a 20-year-old is capable of doing, their bodies will tell off on them. Their bodies will say, no, I've changed. I'm not what I used to be. I can't do that anymore. And even if they press their way through it and give off the impression that they're just as effective in doing what they did 20, 30, 40 years ago, the nighttime tells all. The nighttime tells all. You lay down feeling one way, you wake up the next morning feeling another way. So you are constantly changing. That there, right there within itself, will let you know that you just absolutely, positively cannot get around change. Um, we know that some change is welcomed by people, but other change is totally rejected. Now, it's not just a matter of people disliking change, but in most cases, it's a matter of people fearing change. People fear change. And when you think about that, um, you have to come to the conclusion that fear often paralyzes that person from moving forward. you know and that's one of the reasons why it's so important that we pray and ask God to help us to overcome whatever fears that we may be facing in life, because the last thing you want to do is to get to a point in life where you become paralyzed, where you become stagnant, where there is no movement in your life. People fear change because they fear the uncertainty that comes with change. They fear the unknown that comes with change. They fear the unfamiliar, if you will. And the reason why uh, they fear these things is because a lot of people want to feel like that they are constantly in full control, in total control of their lives. Uh, yeah, I agree with you, Celeste. Change can be good. Sometimes you have to just jump. That's absolutely true. But again, when you are locked down with fear, it does keep you from moving forward. You know, when you allow fear to keep you from moving forward, then you really slam the door on potential and possibility. I'm just noticing here, I've been looking for this the whole time, but Lady Ann just popped in. And y'all know I pause for the calls every time I notice that she's in. For those of y'all who's wondering, who's Lady Ann? That's my wife. That's my partner. That's my girl. That's my boo. And I always publicly honor her because, again, I give her the credit to in that I know that it's because of her support that it makes it easier for me to do what I do. So I honor her each and every time, y'all. I try to make sure I do that each and every morning for those of you that may be viewing for the very first time. But again, the last thing you want to do is become paralyzed by fear. Now, many people view change as a threat, and it is. Yes, change is a threat. How so, Dr. Cobbs? I'm glad you asked. Change is a threat to the status quo. Let that soak in for a minute. Change is a threat to the status quo. And although the status quo feels very comfortable, if allowed to, the status quo can literally slam the door on potential and possibility. Yes, it can. The status quo can kill hopes, it can kill dreams, it can kill vision. The status quo impedes progress. The status quo hinders discovery. Now, I can speak from a very authoritative position with regards to what the status quo can do, because again, many of you know that I've already entered into my 30th year of pastoral ministries. I've completed 29 years of pastoral ministries. I'm in my 30th year right now. And over my 30 years, and even prior to my pastoral years, just being in ministry, I've seen firsthand how holding on to the status quo can really set back the progress of not just ministry, but the progress of people's lives, the progress of other institutions and organizations. It kills dreams and visions. That's the reason why you have to be very strong in your convictions, very open to change and potential necessary movement, because otherwise you're going to find yourself becoming stagnant. You're going to find yourself once again allowing yourself to become too comfortable in that place that we know as our comfort zone. And while it feels good to a great degree, it is hindering you from experiencing your greatest potential. Listen, if you never become uncomfortable with where you are, it's likely that you're not experiencing growth. Think about that. Change is an element of growth. It's a part of growth. You cannot grow without changing. If we could, some of us would still be looking exactly like we did when we came out of the womb of our mothers. Think about that. Boy, that would be tragic when I think of it in terms of what we've experienced as what we know as life, you know, for us to be the same size and look the same way and have not developed normally and naturally. You need change every now and then. Growth in the pure sense of the word entails change for the better. It involves change that results in improvement. Now, the question that I think is important that we periodically ask and answer, we need to ask ourselves and answer is this: do I want to improve? Do I want to get better? Or do I want to simply remain as I am? And even if you decide to remain as you are, really you've resolved yourself to more so going into a state of regression as opposed to going into a state of progression. Really? Yes, really. Because if you're not growing, if you're not excelling, if you're not elevating, you are declining. You are going to go into a state of decline. You might be hoping for things to get better, but they'll never improve because you have intentionally decided that it's no longer necessary for you to aspire to growth in your life. When you stop growing, that's when you start dying. I am convinced of that. I believe I have alluded to this on occasions on some of our past morning mocha sessions, that the reason why certain institutions are no longer in existence right now today is because of their resistance and their reluctance to change. And that even includes churches. The reason why churches close, why ministries shut down, is because of the resistance of the leadership and even now the congregation as a whole, their resistance to change. Listen to this. When people push back on change, listen to one of their greatest arguments against change. And here it is. We've always done it this way. That's one of the problems with past glories. People will try to live forever on past glories. And what happens is while they're living on their past glories, life continues to pass them by. People still think that doing what they did 20 years ago is going to be just as impactful and effective today as it was then. That's not necessarily the case. I love and respect my golden saints, and I'm not just talking about our ministry at Canaan, but I'm talking about golden saints within the body of Christ. I love and respect them. But one thing that a lot of them don't understand is they haven't really fully embraced how time progresses on. And as time progresses on, there are certain methods that you used in the past that you can no longer employ. Well, this worked for us when we were children. Yes, it did. And I guarantee you this, that at the stage that's now senior saint was in then, and what they were doing then was a shift and a change from what the previous generation had done. We change from generation to generation. There are differences even now between cultures. We've labeled each and every generation, the baby boomers, the Gen X's, the millennials, we've labeled all of these different generations, and what we don't understand is not only are they different generations, but they represent different cultures. And within each and every generation, each and every culture, there is a specific mindset that governs that culture, that governs that generation. Each and every generation um, finds what fits and works for that generation in that particular time. And there's so many different moving parts that goes along with that. This present generation, this present culture that we're in is driven more so by technology. Our society is driven more by technology than ever before. And whether we believe it or not, it affects everything we do, even ministry. I mean, think about it. Things are changing. I've tried to convince some older people, people of the older generation, that people don't even learn the way they used to learn. If you don't believe me, try, some of you that are at least my age, try sitting down with your grandchildren and trying to help them with their math work. You're not going to be very successful, because nowadays they have a different way of doing math. Thank you, Sister Michelle Love. Tradition kills growth. Yes, it does. Why? Because tradition settles into and becomes so comfortable with the status quo that the people who have embraced that tradition definitely they resist change. Rochelle Parker has given me an email about that math thing. Lord help, that math, oh my gosh. People learn differently. People take in information differently. Full disclosure, I can't tell you the number of times that it's been brought to my attention for Canaan Worship Center, we need to have Sunday school. Well, we do have Sunday school, but we just don't call it Sunday school. We call it life application classes. And some of my older saints, they push back on that because they want the labeling to fit what they were comfortable with growing up. But the young people, the younger generations, they're not looking for Sunday school. They are looking for something that's going to help me with my life right now. I think I shared this, may have been on one of my Bible study sessions, or may have been here on Morning Mocha. But a lot of people don't even know the origin of Sunday school. Originally, Sunday school had nothing to do with church. It had nothing to do with studying the Bible. Sunday school used to literally be secular school on Sunday prior to worship for the children who worked the fields during the week who couldn't attend regular school. They came to the church house, which in many communities was the schoolhouse anyway, but they came prior to Sunday morning worship, and they would study reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's where the phrase Sunday school came from, because it was actually school. Watch this. Then somebody decided to change it. They flipped it from being a time for secularly educating the children to biblically educating people. That change. It was something different before someone changed it or flipped it. Now, I said earlier that change in the pure sense of the word entails change for the better. It involves change that results in improvement. Somebody felt as though we can use this another way. We can improve this. We can take advantage of this and flip this and cause it to be a platform for religiously and spiritually educating our people. Change. That's how you got to Sunday school. And people have been so locked into that tradition and doing that particular thing that any adjustments or modifications are just totally unreasonable. Why? If we are offering classes that help to improve the lives of people, that's what the goal is supposed to be. Help to educate people, that's what the goal is supposed to be. Then why push back or resist that? Most of the time, it's simply because people are not used to it. I mean, think about our life application classes, if you will, and I'm going to move on from this quickly, but just to kind of give you some insight on this. Our life application classes consist of, watch this, general Bible studies, where the instructor literally teaches lessons straight from the Bible. Isn't that what we did in Sunday school? Just a different flavor. Instead of buying books from the Sunday school board, the Baptist Sunday school board, y'all know, the publishing board, that's what I meant. We just study straight from the Bible. How to study the Bible. You know, we've had classes on how to navigate through family relationships, how to connect young people with the older generation. And it's all based on biblical principles. But some people are uncomfortable with that because they are accustomed to hearing or saying, I go to Sunday school. It's almost like entering a school building from two different doors and having classes on two different floors, but one floor rejects the other floor, or one door rejects the other door simply because it doesn't line up with people's personal ideologies. Now, think about this. The discomfort of change is really only temporary. The discomfort of change is relative to one's resistance to change. A lot of times, if you would just stop resisting change, that discomfort with change would subside much quicker than you think. As a matter of fact, you might adjust to the change and find out that you love what has taken place with the change. I've seen that happen on so many occasions. Why haven't we done this before? Well, the answer is because we were pretty apprehensive about what your response was going to be. Once again, Canaan Worship Center, if I can throw this in at you, some people are uncomfortable with the changes that we've recently experienced, with having to register online. And this gets me because we're always on our phone and we register for stuff all the time. If I told you to go and register for the possibility of having $5,000 deposited into your bank account, you wouldn't have no problem navigating through it. You will sit there until you figure it out. Especially if you knew that it wasn't just a possibility, it was more like a probability and a likeliness that you were going to get this money simply because you went in to register. People that say, oh, well, that's difficult, that's inconvenient. Oh, I bet you they would do it then. How much stuff do we buy online? That's a form of registering because you have to put your information in, you know, and all of that it's the same thing. There are some people who have pushed back because our services are now an hour earlier than what they used to be. And why did we do that? Because when we were outside, the sun would come up and it would be so hot while we were out there. God just gave me the wisdom to adjust the time and shift where we would have the outdoor service for the sake of keeping those who were working comfortable. See, that's another thing, reason why some people resist change, because they're only considering themselves. I mean, think about this. When we changed our time, moved it up an hour, it put a greater demand on me. I have to be up an hour earlier. I have to be at the church an hour earlier, you know, but some people can't see the benefit of it. Those who attend church, since we've gone to the 9 o'clock hour as opposed to the 10 o'clock hour, they are loving it because they're like, okay, we're out of church so much earlier. And, you know, and it's not just that they're celebrating getting out of church earlier, but it kind of opens up their day and allows them the ability to even now have more time of fellowship with their families through Sunday, throughout the day, because Monday, you're right back in the grind, back to work. It's all about one's perspective. The pain of the change is only relevant to your resistance to change. Positive change comes with potentially unrevealed benefits. Now let that soak in. Because, you know, on the front side, most people don't even want to consider the benefits of change. And even when you roll it out to them, there's still pushback because it demands for them to come out of that place where they are, out of that comfort zone, and to enter into the unfamiliar and the unknown. And people just don't want to do that. But again, positive change comes with the potentially unrevealed benefits. It can initiate, here's some of the benefits, it can initiate much needed movement. Sometimes you need to get moving on some things. Stagnation is a state of no movement. It is a state where no growth is taking place. And personally, I don't want to be a part of anything that's not growing. Another benefit is it can create a detour that avoids destruction. I think about that. In some situations, if you stay on the course that you're on for too long, you're going to eventually meet with destruction. What are the signs of destruction? It's decline. When things start to decline, you're only headed for destruction unless you shake up things and turn it around. Positive change can reignite lost passion. Listen, when an organization, when a person loses their passion for whatever it is they do, they just about become useless. Yes. I want all of you church people to stop and you think about this. And I'm always getting you to think about when people become disgruntled and when people leave ministries. I can give you a particular situation at Canaan Worship Center some years ago. Listen to me. The Spirit of the Lord during my time of meditation, y'all hear me real good, said to me, I want you to begin to develop more leaders within the ministry. I said, okay, God, how am I to do that? He said, you're going to need to move some things around. You're going to have to make some new assignments and reassignments. And I prayed over this thing for a long time. And then, I was inspired to write a memo that notified our leadership, our volunteer staff and all that change was coming, but it was for the better. I even talked to many of our leaders and said, God wants us to identify more leaders around here. And in my face, they said, yeah, that's good. But the very ones who in my face said it was good, behind my back, they were the primary resistors to the change that was coming. Why? Because the change had become a threat to their position. Wow. They were feeling like if he makes these changes and I moved out of my position, then I'll lose that sense of influence or notoriety within the congregation. I even said to the leaders that were in position, I'm not moving you out of leadership, but I'm going to reassign you and ask you to take the reins of leadership in another area of ministry so that we can develop other people to even now do some of the things that we do, so we can always be cross-trained and be able to cover one another and then be able to grow the ministry by adding other elements or aspects to our ministry. In my face, they say, wow, that's great. That's wonderful. But the people that I got the most pushback from, the most negative response from, are people who had been in their leadership position 8, 9, 10 years. Man, that's longer than the terms of the president, 2 terms. And here's what they were forgetting, is that when they came in and took the reins of their leadership role that they were presently serving in, someone else had to move out of the way for them to take the reins of leadership. Now, they get in, they become possessive. Deacon Will is being a witness to that. It did get ugly. And needless to say, that a great number of those people are no longer at Canaan. Why? Because they resisted change. They were more concerned about their title and position than they were the progress and the movement of the ministry itself. And I was vilified for it. And the sad part about it is because I refused to speak publicly about it then. A lot of people believed whatever rhetoric that was being spewed even about me and the leadership that supported what we were trying to do. That creates confusion. That's the negative effect of even now positive change. When you get enough people pushing back on positive change, it can hinder the forward movement of any organization, even of an individual. You push back too much on change that's going to benefit you, it will hinder your own personal forward movement. Change, positive change, can restore morale. I'm telling you, listen, an organization, a group of people need to do all that they can to maintain the morale within the group. And every now and then that means making some positive changes. Positive change can renew hope. Positive change can revive dying institutions. Think about it. At the root of most failures is the resistance to change. After doing most anything a certain length of time, change is needed. It becomes absolutely necessary. Think about this. At some point, routines become boring. Old routines stop producing. That's when change becomes necessary. When it gets boring, that's when change becomes necessary. And it's necessary for the sake of survival and infusing new life into whatever situation that you have entered into that is presently dying. Now, I want y'all to think about this, and this is really going to mess some of you up. But I want you to just hear me all the way out as I roll out this next thing. Listen to this. There comes a time in the life of an institution or an organization when chaos, organized chaos, needs to be created. You need to shake things up. Why? Because once an institution has plateaued or reached its peak, then the only thing it can do is decline. Wow. I know that's going against the grain. Organized chaos. Yep. Intentional chaos. Yes. Why? People remain comfortable until a little chaos is created. Have you ever known people on a job who knew that some changes were coming and things were about to get shaken up, and it's been implied that only the cream of the crop are going to remain employed within that company? And when that announcement is made, you see some people who historically had been very casual and indifferent about their jobs and their position. They start to work harder than they've ever worked before. Why? Because now they're trying to make an impression upon the powers that be for the sake of trying to hold on to or maintain their position. Look what intentional chaos has done. It's lit in the fire. It lights a fire under them. Yes, it does. It gets them going. It gets them motivated. They are now concerned. They want to do the right thing. They want to put forth their best effort, put their best foot forward. Why? Because of the shake up. Company announces we're about to go into another direction. People get nervous. They get shook up. But those who possess wisdom and understand the movement of organizations over time, they understand how important it is every now and then to change some things. There are some businesses, large flourishing companies, that have recently adopted this principle. This is going to really mess some of y'all up. Watch this. Here's the principle they've adopted. If it ain't broke, break it. Oh, wow. You thought it was going to come out, don't fix this. No, that's been the problem in the first place, because that further perpetuates the status quo. Are we doing all right? Things are still looking good. You know, you climb, you climb, you climb, you climb, and then you platform and you level off. Know this, that there's a cliff at the end of that leveling off. When you get to the cliff, what happens? Boom, you fall off the cliff. So instead of just plateauing, leveling off, we're going to break it. We're going to shake it up. We're going to create some chaos intentionally, and it's going to start the movement in another direction. Because in that, you begin to explore new things. You begin to become exposed to new things. You start to consider things from a different perspective. When a company or a business or organization, institution gets to that place, that's when they start to revisit and reevaluate policies and procedures. Well, what does that have to do with my life, Dr. Cobbins? Well, every now and then, you need to reevaluate who you are, where you are, what you do, how you do things. And then come to the conclusion, make some kind of assessment. Where am I? Where am I going? What does the future look like for me? Are there some things that I need to change? And if I need to change some things, ask yourself this question, then why am I so resistant or reluctant to change? Every now and then, organizations need to take a fresh assessment of their staff and their personnel. We talk about getting the right people on the right bus, but then you need to have the right people in the right seats on the right bus. Otherwise, you still have a problem. You don't want to put somebody in the driver's seat who cannot who cannot drive, rather. But then you don't want to keep someone in the driver's seat that's been driving for 100 years and now can't have see, hear, or react. You don't want to leave them there just because they've been a driver in the past. I'm sorry. I'm just going to tell y'all the truth, and I don't mean to hurt nobody's feelings, but it is true. I was with an organization that dealt with youth that had a director, a sitting director at the time, who had been in their position more than 60 years. And they were over 90 years old. Why in the world would you have a 90-year-old director of youth? Y'all, this is the whole truth and nothing but truth. It doesn't make sense. The reason why it was happening that way is because people had become comfortable with the status quo, and they failed to recognize that that organization, that ministry, was declining simply because they no longer had the right people on the right bus, in the right seats on the bus. Companies that can detect any sense of stagnation within the company or organization over an extended period of time, they immediately start to implement change. You ought to adopt that for your personal life. When you experience stagnation in your life over any period of time, you need to implement change. Now, change can be intentional or it can be forced. Intentional change can be controllable change. Forced change can result in uncontrollable chaos. If you wait until you're forced to change, you've done nothing but created a very chaotic situation, and it's not going to go well. It's not going to go smoothly. Can I suggest something to y'all? Y'all know I'm always sharing with you wisdom, even about relationships, even in your marriage. Sometimes you have to intentionally change some things. I'm not talking about going out and finding somebody else. No, intentionally change how you do some things within your marriage. If you're still trying to impress your spouse with that stuff you did 30 years ago, you need to go back to the school of Mac game or whatever it is, or romance or whatever. You're wondering why, he act like he's not attracted to me no more. She act like she's not attracted. No, your game has gotten old. It's dull. Oh my gosh, I'm making some of y'all uncomfortable. I know it. That stuff don't work no more. I believe it was BB King that said the thrill is gone. You got to shake some things up. Now, since change at times becomes necessary, it is best that change be intentional. Don't resist it. Just flow with it. It could very well prove to be for your good. If you're able to foresee the good in the proposed change, then embrace it quickly. The earlier you embrace it, the sooner you will reap the benefits. Think about that. Think about that. Listen, I don't mean to shake y'all up, but I'm telling you, I'm always looking to see how I can improve things and change things for the better. As you all know, many of you know, but next year I'll be 60 years old. And I figure it's time for me to start at least thinking about what I'm going to do after pastoring. Because I'm telling y'all right now, I'm not going to be that pastor that's going to be 90 years old, pastoring a church. No. That's not going to be me. No. I'm already thinking about what can I do after transitioning into another chapter of my life. You notice I didn't say after I go into retirement. It's not going to be about retirement with me. It's going to be about transitioning into doing something a bit different. Yeah, I'm going to do some form of ministry all my life. It's who I am. Okay? It's what I've been called, ordained, and anointed to do. But it's not going to always look the way it looks right now. It's going to be some changes. There's going to be some adjustments. Now, I want y'all sitting there trying to figure out when that's going to happen. Are you trying to tell us something, Bishop? No, I told you what I wanted you to know. I'm just not going to be pastoring Canaan Worship Center for the next 20, 25 years. That ain't going to happen. And I'm not planning on checking that out anytime soon. Oh, thank you, Rochelle. There's a little information to throw up there. I've already gotten into some things that I'm already enjoying. Some of you all can go to my website and check it out. I'm a professional certified life coach now. Professionally certified. Yes. My desire is to use ministry to help people move from where they are to where they desire to be in life. Change. I'm not resisting it. I'm embracing it. I'm excited about it. It's all about change. Yes, change for the better. And I know, again, I'm making some of you all very uncomfortable. Very, very uncomfortable, because some of you would dread the ideal. You're dreading the ideal of me shifting into something different. Why? Because if and when I do, I may not be working in a vein or an avenue that is most suitable to you. But in this respect, on this occasion, with this instance, it's not about you. This one time I have to say, well, I need to do what's best for me, my family, my life, my happiness, my joy, my peace. Oh, y'all, I'll be with y'all for a while. Don't worry about that. Don't try to figure out no timeline. But I think everybody needs to have a plan. Everyone needs to have a plan for making necessary shifts in your life, adjustments, changes for the better. See something that is worth pursuing other than what you're presently doing now. Don't fear it, embrace it, especially if you know for a fact you are certainly certain that it's for you. All right. Well, that's all I have for the day. That wraps up our week with Morning Mocha. Hope you've been blessed. Hope you learned something today. Hope you've been challenged. You know, hope you see the benefit in embracing change, and maybe you've been inspired to sit down and start laying out a plan for some changes that you've been desiring to make in life, some positive changes. I tell you all the time to journal, sit down and write some things down. I journal all the time, or at least when I really feel the urge to journal. I started doing so probably about 12 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And it's a blessing because it helps you to remain on focus. It helps to keep that passion burning for you to keep your life moving forward. Well, I went a bit over time today, but I hope that's been okay with you. I love you guys. Once again, I want to solicit the prayers for the family of Mother Smith. She will be eulogized on today. Uh, we'll be celebrating her homegoing. And so we ask that you would uh, continuously lift up the family, pray for the family, that God will give them comfort and peace as they go through this transition that they're experiencing in their family right now. We are praying for everyone who's experiencing bereavement and even sickness in your family and around you, that God will continue to bless and keep you. We love you. I look forward to being with you on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Hope you'll be in the building. Go ahead, go out there and register. It's easier than you think, all right? And I want to see you in the house on Sunday morning, 9 a.m. And until then, my desire and prayer is that you have a blessed, wonderful, and even prosperous rest of your weekend. God bless.